Hello, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to today's webinar. I'm very pleased that you could join us. We're looking specifically today at a webinar which is geared towards e-invoicing providers that are selling to the finance shared services market. So I'm delighted to say that today we have Elke Ora, who's the chairman of the board at Quantal, and he's specifically looking at the webinar entitled Calling All E-Invoicing Providers, the Secrets to Being Super Successful. So I extend to you a very warm welcome indeed. My name is Susie West, and for those of you that haven't worked with us, just a little bit of background. I set up sharedserviceslink.com in 2007 specifically to help this market mature and to be ready for tools like electronic invoicing and to prepare their purchase-to-pay organizations so that they could adopt technologies like electronic invoicing faster. And I'm very pleased to have Quantal on the webinar today to help e-invoicing providers be even more successful in their overall mission. So if you're not already a member of sharedserviceslink.com, please do become a member. Membership is free, and you as an e-invoicing provider have a lot of access to information which is available on our website, and I urge you to go and join that after this webinar if you're not already a member. Let's have a look at how the next 60 minutes will shape out. I'm going to touch briefly on how this session works and then look at the intention of this session, and then I'll be passing directly over to Elke, who's going to be really getting into the detail of this subject matter. We'll then be taking your questions towards the end of this session. It's a very comprehensive, straightforward platform, GoToWebinar, but should you have any technical queries for any particular reason, we do have technical support on the line to help you, and also please do use this opportunity to ask questions. And this is actually the first time I've come across the technology and the solution that Elke is going to talk about today. I know I had a lot of questions for Elke over the past 6 weeks whilst we've been working together putting this presentation together, and I had a lot of questions. I know you will too, so please do use this forum to have your questions answered. How that works is you've got a GoToWebinar panel on your desktop. Within that there's a free text box. You just insert your question into the questions free text box and submit it. That will come to me. I will then put your question to you, Elke, at the end of the webinar in the last 10 minutes. Just a point of reference, please do make sure that you put that question to me sooner rather than later. The sooner you get it to me, the more likely it is to be asked. So let's have a look at the intention of this session before I hand over to Elke. The e-invoicing market is indeed a very competitive market now, and many organizations will say that e-invoicing is front of mind for them, and really they have extensive volumes to convert to electronic invoicing. So it's a huge market. Many of us will know there are about 30 billion invoices being transacted each year in Europe alone. So the opportunity, the size of the opportunity really is extensive, and it is competitive. There are organizations emerging really quite rapidly to really have a slice of the action. And customers are hard to win. Customers, we all experience, they go through a very, very particular buying process in order to identify which solution that they want to go for, and also which solution provider they want to go for. So that customers are hard to win, and also they're quite hard to hold on to, especially now that there are more competitors in the e-invoicing arena coming into the space. So they are hard to hold on to, and we are beginning to see a little bit of churn now, much more churn than we saw maybe 5 or so years ago. The management of the sale to the buyer and also to the supplier, the management of the delivery of your service, and areas around billing, for example, that very, very complex, and especially because we're dealing with significant volumes of suppliers in particular when a buying account comes on board. So there are complexities within this particular industry which other industries may not necessarily experience. So what we're doing today is we're looking in this particular webinar at how electronic invoicing service providers are beginning to adopt technologies like the one that we'll be looking at now, specifically to help them win and also retain clients. So with that in mind, I'd now like to introduce Chairman of the Board at Kvantel, Elke Ora. Over to you, Elke.
Thank you, Susie, and welcome everybody. Appreciate you taking this time, and I trust we will have a very informative session looking at the business support systems that you will need in running successful e-invoice operations. The issues I'm planning on addressing in this webinar are first, how to enhance business agility. Time to market is important. Changes in the marketplace will be often. How do you react in an orderly manner to the changes that your competitors do introduce to the market? Also, how to improve the management of ever-increasing complexity with scalable product management, with scaling number of e-invoices and transactions that you will be processing. And then we'll address how to facilitate the orchestration of order management from the moment you sign a contract to the moment that it has been provisioned and activated to your production environment. We'll also discuss how to manage customer care in a professional manner with a 360-degree view of your customer base. And then we will address an important issue of not losing a euro cent of the revenue that belongs to you, and we will address the revenue assurance and control matters that will prevent you from suffering from any revenue leakage. But before we move on, may I introduce Kvantel a little bit? We are a 18 years old company with 160 people, about 80 people in India and 80 people in Scandinavia. We have an annual revenue of 10 million euros, and we are the provider of the Q platform, which is a cloud-based business support system. So if I, in this webinar, refer to BSS, that is the abbreviation for business support systems. And we cater our platform to communication service providers, online media companies, and e-invoicing companies. Some of the references we have are listed in this page and include the leading communication service providers in Scandinavia: TeliaSonera, TDC, Elisa, and we also have as our customers some network equipment vendors like Ericsson and Nokia Siemens Networks. And in your vertical, we have Busware as our customer. But I won't spend a whole lot of time introducing who we are, only what we've done. The background where we come to addressing the e-invoice community is our 15 years experience with the telecommunication service providers. The operators, as I will call them, they act in between the sender and the recipient of a message. That message can be a voice call, a text message, a data message, or a multimedia message. But anyway, they have a platform to facilitate the messages between the sender and the receiver. And in this world, we have acted for 15 years successfully providing these operators a business support system. In the middle, you see a box with 4 colors. I'll explain. That kind of represents the business support system. I'll explain that a bit later. Well, a few years ago, we were looking at what other verticals we could serve with our platform, and we identified that you, as e-invoice operators, you are a facilitator of messages going back and forth from the supplier to the buyer. So we figured you're pretty much in the same mode of operation as a mobile operator would be. Your services are not voice calls or SMSs, but your products are the e-invoices, the EDI messages, or other documents. And your services are the conversion, the validation, the enrichment, the signing, the security, and the archiving of these messages. To us, does not make a whole lot of difference what is the nature of the message. We are in the business of handling a large number of small transactions. The complexity gets even more difficult when you have more than one operator passing the message from the sender to the recipient. And we are operating in an environment where there are multiple teleoperators called the roaming calls. And likewise, you will have ever more situations where there will be more than one e-invoice operator passing the message back and forth. But then how are we planning on transforming this benefit and this learning that we have had the past 16 years in the telecommunication service provider industry? Well, that industry has been around for 100 years, so they've had plenty of time to come up with the best business practices. They have even formed an industry association called TM Forum that basically focuses on simplifying complexity of running a service provider business. And describing the business and the different components, they have identified 4 different areas that requires, let's say, a common language and common way of doing. They have identified the business process framework as an area that describes what are the business processes related to being a telecommunications service provider, your sales process, your fulfillment process, your billing process, and so forth. So there are ready-made business process descriptions for different business areas or business processes. And then there's an information framework with the shared information model of the information that sits in different applications and how to pass that information from one application to the other. Then there is the application framework. What are the roles and responsibilities of different applications? And then the 4th one is the integration framework, how to make this all work in a sufficient, simple, manageable manner. We are a member of the Telemanagement Forum, and we will take the best business practices of this, that's called a legacy industry, to the new industry of e-invoice operators. The benefits are clear. Business agility is a clear benefit when you have well-documented both processes, integrations, and data models. You reduce a heck of a lot of integration time and cost when you have shared information models, when you have an integration framework. You drastically reduce the risk because there will be less surprises because you have a common vocabulary how to describe processes, information models, integration methodologies, and so forth. And you will have a future-proof solution because it is built on the service-oriented architecture and the ETL framework. Well, let's look at then the different, what is business support system and what do we mean by that? But before going there, we could look at the components. The most important one, or let's build them one by one, but the framework is that we're now addressing the business processes from order to cash. I will not address lead to cash or your CRM platforms. So we're talking about order to cash. The first component is your product catalog, where you establish your products. And once you have your products, then you need an application for sales, where you gather your customer information and the products and services they are buying from you. After that, you need order management, service activation, and you update your new customer information to your customer registry. Then your customers start using your products, and you will start collecting the events that I will call detailed records. And that's when the mediation, the rating, and the invoicing comes into the picture. So rating will put the price on each transaction, and then from time to time, you will send invoices. If your customers do not pay, send them reminders. And if they still don't pay, then you send collection assignments to your collection agency. Well, eventually they will pay to your bank account and your financial ERP system will be updated. But every once in a while, you will have issues that you need to address with your customer, and that's when you need the customer services application. These are the components I will address. I understand there are more, I would say, smaller applications in the BSS stack, but for the time we have available and for the clarity of the message, these are the components I will address. Well then, why don't we look at some of the business pains that an e-invoice operator will face or has faced. Through our discussions with the e-invoice operators, we have identified that one of the major issues is the high operational expenses due to lots of manual processes. Not so much anymore, but even passing Excel spreadsheets from one person to the other, one adding additional information before it goes to the finance department and the invoices are issued. One challenge has been that the legacy systems do not support the new business model. Business is going more from licensing to transaction-based business models. Also, homegrown applications do not scale volume-wise or geography-wise. You have a legacy system for one country, but how do you make that scale for the 5 countries or the 10 countries you're planning to address? Then we have identified clear revenue leakage points and errors in billing. Either they've been high or in some cases even unknown. And then due to the errors in billing, there has been low customer satisfaction because of poor invoice quality, and in some cases missing reporting. What do I pay for? You sent me an invoice, but I would like to get an itemization of the issues that you are charging me for. So these are some of the pain points that we have identified, and then we could go to the individual components of the BSS system. But before that, we could take a look at what are the areas that maybe are the biggest interest or the pain points for you.
Thank you very much indeed, Ilkka. So a poll question for you, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to do 2 back-to-back poll questions here. Which of the following are your biggest pain points today? Ilkka drew on some of the key pain points that he comes across. Which are the biggest pain points for you today? Multiple choice here. Do you suffer from high operational complexity due to many manual processes, or maybe a lack of business because of lack of interoperability? Maybe legacy systems do not support new business models, lack of scalability in processes or applications that don't support your growth, or lack of business process orchestration. So which ones there, which causes errors? So which ones of those apply to you? It's multiple choice, please. Please, if everybody could respond to these polls. Very few of you have responded as yet. We do like to try and get these responses up to about 70%. We're currently at about 20%. So please do tick the box which most applies to your own situation. Which of the following are your biggest pain points? There may be bigger ones, but out of the list that's provided here, which ones resonate with you the most? And you can see the options that are available to you. Still waiting for a lot of you to respond, so please do so. And as I mentioned, there we're at about 30% responding. So if you can tick the box most appropriate, and I will be closing the poll in 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's have a look at the data before we move on to the next poll. You can see here a clear winner with 57% of respondees' answers pointing to high operational complexity due to a lot of manual processes. So I know that Ilkka is going to come back with a couple of comments shortly. Let's just move straight on to the second back-to-back in the back-to-back poll, which is appearing on your screen now. And which business support applications do you have the biggest pain points at the moment? Is it product catalog, sales application, order management and service activation, rating and billing, or customer services? Again, multiple choice here. So have a look at that question, and if you could tick the box or the boxes which are most appropriate to you. In which business support application or applications do you have the biggest pain points at the moment? Product catalog, sales application, order management and service activation, rating and billing, or customer services? Again, if I can urge you, if you haven't already, the more of you that respond, the more meaningful the data is when we show it up on the screen. So again, only about 30% of you voted. We normally get about 70% when we ask end users to vote. So let's see if we can match those kinds of numbers. And I'll be closing the poll in 3, 2, 1. Let's have a look at the data, see what kind of a story that tells. So coming up on your screen shortly, you'll be able to see, again, a very clear winner. That's the area that you find perhaps the most problematic, the biggest pain point is the rating and the billing. Back to you, Ilkka.
All right. Thank you, Sushi. Yes, I'm not surprised that the complexity is a clear winner in the pain points, and that's exactly what I will be addressing. And I'm also happy to see that the rating and billing is the area that you face as an individual component, the biggest pain points, and I would say that that is our strongest area out of all these applications that I will be addressing. So I trust you will get answers to your questions, and I'd like to stress that even though the BSS platform might seem like, boy, there's a lot of complexity because there's plenty of components and rules and this and that, but the whole purpose is to simplify your daily operations. Because when you document, when you have rules, when you have clear attributes, that's how you describe the environment you work, and that's where you operate, and that's how you simplify it. Well, let's move on to product catalog as an example of how to simplify your operational environment. Product catalog is the central repository of all product and services related information. It's centralized, stored in one place, and then it is published as an XML message to upstream, downstream applications. For example, it will be published to the sales application, and it will be published to the order management, to the mediation, to the rating, and to your customer registry, and to your customer services applications. So you have the product update. Instead of having to update that to multiple other applications, you store it once. It has rules, where it will be published, how it will affect the rating engine, and so forth. And with one update, the information will be populated to all the relevant other applications, and that way making sure that your data integrity is right, your data management is always in good shape. The benefits are that you have clear savings. 10% is kind of a, I would say 10 to 20% savings in process and labor cost because you update once and you populate automatically. Also, you have 25 to 50% faster time to market thanks to the rules-based configuration. Instead of having to change the information in many places and trying to remember how does this relate to these different components, you have clear rules, and that will take care of the configuration of your platform. Well, moving on to order management as the next component. Order management can be rather tricky because it can be a lengthy process with manual processes and also automated processes, variations, how to track where your orders are, and so forth. Well, we at Untitled are using a business process modeling notation that kind of describes your order process. The first level is a narrative story. How does order go through your organization, different people, departments, systems, and what is the outcome? Kind of a layman's description of this is how orders go through our platform. Then the next is a description of that layman's language in a business process modeling notation. It's kind of a decision tree. When this criteria is met, this is what happens. If we receive an error, this is how transaction will be taken through error handling process. And then the third element is the integration layer, two different internal and external subsystems in order to execute your order management. And the same framework can be used for general workflow management, but I'm using order management as an example. The brilliance of this is that once you have a change, you make the change in the modeling, and then you will execute that using the business process execution module that will then implement that change in a matter of minutes. So you will receive 25% cost savings in exception handling and in manual correction processes because you identify them quickly and at their origin. Also, you will find great improvements in your customer satisfaction because your orders will be fulfilled in a timely manner, and you will have a dashboard that keeps track of each order and in what phase are they. If the customer would call and ask for, where is my order, you would immediately be able to tell this is where it is, and that's when it will be completed. And you will have 50% faster time to market in the process changes because, again, it's modeled and it's executed in a orderly manner. And that will give you competitive advantage as your competitors would be still using manual processes or multiple applications and so forth. Well, before moving on, I'd like to take a poll question about where do you see the world is today and where is it going in relation to one-time license fees and annual support fees versus transaction-based. And I'd like to turn the time over to you, Susie, for the next two poll questions.
Thank you very much, Ilkka. So, in your e-invoicing business today, what was the portion of licensing-based business, so one-time, including one-time license or annual and annual revenue? What was that as a percentage of your overall revenue at the end of 2010? Was it less than 50%, 51 to 70%, 71 to 90%, 91 to 99%, or was it indeed 100%? So just so everyone's clear on the question, in your own e-invoicing business, what was the portion, the percentage of revenue that came in from your licensing-based business as a percentage of your overall 2010 revenue? Is it less than 50%, 51 to 70%, 71 to 90%, 91 to 99%, or was it indeed 100%? Still waiting for a number of you to cast your vote, please. So please do make sure that you do respond to the questions. They do indeed make the data that we show much more meaningful. So you haven't responded, please do so. I'll be closing the polls in 3, 2, 1. Let's have a look at the data. Coming up on your screen shortly, you can see 83% of you saying that less than 50% of your revenues coming in 2010 came from license-based business. So very interesting. And as Ilkka said, this is a back-to-back poll. So same question, but projecting forward to the end of 2013. So again, in your e-invoicing business, what portion of your, what percentage of your overall revenue do you think will be coming from license-based business by the end of 2013? If you can tick the box which is most appropriate to you. Again, everyone that voted in the last one, please do vote again. It will make this the response to this exercise much more meaningful. So if you responded to the last one, please do make sure that you respond to this one. So less than 50%, 51 to 70%, 71 to 90%, and 91 to 99%. or indeed 100%. So closing the poll in 3, 2, 1. Let's have a look at the data there. Coming up on your screen shortly. Okay, very interesting results, and I think I'll pass back to Ilka to give comment. Back to you, Ilka.
All right, all right. So it is that clearly the role of licensing-based business will be diminishing, and the world's going more towards transaction-based business. And I do understand that some of your pricing models are already based on transactions, but you might say, you know, it's an annual fee of this much invoiced once a year, and it includes 100,000 transactions. Well, I'm more looking at that actually counting the transactions every month and based on the invoicing on the actual volume based on the different products that your customers have used. But I'll address the fact that how to manage the complexity of millions of customers and hundreds of millions of transactions. And this I relate to the mediation, rating, and billing modules of the business support system. If we look at the old paradigm and the new paradigm, going back a few years, the world was that you would be selling a license that would help them to interact with their your customers. But the world is now going more that you are the hub. Instead of providing a platform for them to communicate, you will be the hub. And in the new paradigm, there will be new types of revenue streams. There will be the one-time charges, there will be transactions charges, there will be recurring monthly charges, there will be complex combinations thereof, and then scaling discounts either percentage-wise or euros-wise. And this is a completely different type of an animal that requires a different platform to handle this manner of transactions. Therefore, we've concluded that your Excel sheets will not do the job because that requires manual processes, and Excel just doesn't scale. It can handle a small number of customers and transactions, but not large volumes. The payment gateways are good to handling small transactions, but not designed for maintaining accounts and doing complex billing. The legacy traditional ERP systems, they've been around for quite some time, but they do not have the intelligence of handling a huge number of small transactions with different pricing depending on different rules and so forth. So that's why our vision is that this new paradigm requires a new billing platform that will do the job. And I'll explain how this will be done. Well, in the mediation, rating, and billing, there are 3 elements, and we'll start with the mediation, which, as the word mediation, it works or acts between your production environment and your business support system. It gathers, collects event detail records from your production environment to identify who did what and how and when. You know, what was the event that took place and to what customer does that event belong to. It also correlates, aggregates, validates, and normalizes the events that then the rating engine can process these transactions. Well, from the mediation device, the events are collected into a database that pass on the events to a rating engine. And the rating engine then applies different business rules on each individual event. The events are almost like technical services, and then the rating engine will put these technical services into commercial products and applies different rules, maybe a customer-specific price, maybe a dependency on that event. Product A is 25 cents, but in combination of product B, it's instead of 25, it's 23 cents. Bundles, you have a combination of let's say, 1,000 transactions included in a price of 40 euros. And in addition to that, each transaction will have a unit price of Y. Discounts are applied in the rating module. They can be euro-based or percentage-based. And then products and services in bundles will determine the actual price of that product. And then the rating engine will send the rated event detail records to the billing engine. That will maintain a real-time customer account of your customers. How much have they spent this month up to today? And that the capabilities there are that some of your customers might say, I don't know how many transactions I need, and I'm not sure if I want to buy 10,000 transactions at a certain price. I'd like to pay you 100 euros, and then each transaction that I will send will consume that balance. So it's like a prepaid account instead of a postpaid account where you charge them afterwards. So a random user could use a prepaid account, and then our platform would send an alert saying that, hey, you've used 80 euros out of your 100 euro prepaid account, and the platform would send an invoice, and they would pay 100 euros more and top up that account. Well, the benefits of this rules-driven rating is that, again, it's 50% faster time to market, implementing discounts or price plans. It's more accurate because it is very well defined, and the rules can be verified, and you have an end-to-end audit trail of all the events. So you can easily find if there are errors in that process. And then moving on to another area closely related to your billing is revenue assurance. Revenue assurance is a business activity that stems from the telecommunications sector. It's basically an activity that uses data quality and process improvement methods that improve profits, revenue, and cash flow without influencing the demand. So it's basically the demand is the same, but it makes sure that not a single euro is lost. And you would think, no, that's a no-brainer. Nobody wants to lose any euros. Well, let's look at a KPMG Global Revenue Assurance Survey from 2009 on the telecommunications sector. You would think that the phone's been around for 100 years, so sure, these guys know what they're doing. Well, even in the most developed and advanced market in EU and America, 17% of the operators are telling that their revenue leakage is greater than 1%. Greater than 1%. I mean, these are companies that have €1 billion revenue, and they're saying, well, we're losing more than 1% of our revenue. And this is not fraud. This is not bad debt. This is revenue leakage due to product configuration errors, due to not identifying every event, not invoicing every event, and so forth. And to make things even worse is that looking at the right-hand side, the number of respondents with no information on leakage estimation. The other was that, yes, we know this 1%. The other ones, we don't have a clue. And, well, I'm sure they have a clue that it's not going to be 5 or 10% of their revenue, but they don't know exactly how much it is. And, again, 37% of operators in EU and America are saying that they don't have an exact number. So our platform provides end-to-end audit trail of each event. We have a gate that calculates how many events came from the production environment, how many went to the rating engine, how many went to the billing engine, and if there's deviations, we immediately attack and identify how come we have less events going to the rating engine than we have coming from the production. And we've seen that we can curb revenue leakage from 1 to 5%. It also identifies the errors earlier, so you have personnel savings in error handling because you can quickly identify where the challenges are. And then you have hugely improved brand image because you are a reliable operator, because your invoices are correct. Well, then moving on to customer services. At time to time, you need to address issues with your customers, and it's important that you have a 360-degree view of your customers, the contracts, their services, and their invoice payment history. This is a view from a telecommunications service provider with 4 different sectors. The first one is the customer's basic information, the contact information and kind of what their passwords and kind of administrative information. The other sector is what are the products and services they are using. In the telco world, it's called subscription. In your world, that would be a contract. What are the services that the contract includes? The third sector is for the customer care representatives to activate and deactivate services when they would say, hey, I want archiving. Yeah, it's a drag and drop. You drag from the right-hand column to the left-hand column and it becomes active, and the order management back-end will facilitate the process. And then you have the fourth quarter, that is the invoicing or payment history, and also the capability of drilling down to each invoice if they call for any additional information. Well, the benefits that we have identified with an operator with plus 2 million subscribers is that 96% of the issues that customers call to them can be handled in the first line support using a single application, the one that I'm showing here. That has benefited that the cost per customer has declined 60%, and the cost per call has also declined 35% over the last 36 months. And the cost per customer is 1/3 of the industry average, only €2 versus about €6 on the industry average. And that is again because they don't have to hop one application to the other, but they have a 360 view. And this is like a portal of the other applications that this application will interact with. And the average call due ratio is only 4 minutes and 20 seconds. This is again a consumer-oriented mobile communication provider. Well, then looking how do we provide this platform, and it's a private cloud that we use to to provide you this service. It includes the platform, the 24/7 monitoring, the point of sale, service, customer service application, the integration to your credit agencies or printing agencies, banks, and so forth, and of course a roadmap further developing this. Well, this is more about BSS, not about cloud services, so I will not spend a whole lot of time in this, and I will just quickly run you through some numbers, because salespeople can give whatever promises, but it's the actual numbers that kind of say, well, what have you achieved? The numbers are from our customer, Teliasonera's subsidiary in Spain called Yoigo, with close to 2.5 million mobile subscribers. They were launched in 1st of December 2006 and have now reached, the latest published figure is close to 2.5 million subscribers. Tremendous growth. We provided the complete business support system from network to point of sale, everything you can imagine of. And how is the customer satisfaction for Yoigo? Well, very good. Yoigo is the green line, almost in every category higher than its competitors, especially in purchasing. How easy is it to interact and buy products and services? And then how good is the customer service? Again, using the interface, the application I just showed, and how accurate is the billing? But very good. Well, this is all fine, but how about finances? How does this relate to operational costs that I've been telling you that we can provide lower than industry average operational expenses? Well, looking at Yoigo and comparing to other mobile communication service providers in EU, and looking at the process costs, IT costs or combined costs. These figures, the first one is the process cost. I've talked about time to market and so forth. So the first figure is how much do operators spend in the process cost? And whereas it's between 9 to 16% for the operators elsewhere in Europe, it's 9% for Yoigo. And then looking at the IT costs, when they spend close to 4% of their revenue to the BSS and other forms, or 2%, Yoigo spends only 0.7%. So combining this, Yoigo with its cloud-based BSS platform from Plantel, they are one half the cost, or 1/3 the cost of their competitors in Europe. So as a summary, just and what is, before going to the Q&A, in order for you to be super successful, you need a robust carrier-grade billing platform that will simplify your processes and make sure that you'll get every euro that belongs to you, with superior business agility, 50% faster time to market, 50% lower total cost of ownership, and true partnership model that I can, if this has been interesting enough, I'm happy to have a chat. What does it mean to have a true partnership model in our revenue model? But now I'll turn the time over to Susie for Q&A that we've had.
Thank you very much indeed, Ilkka. So we've got time for a couple of questions. You mentioned, Ilkka, that you are doing some work with Basware, and obviously Basware is very much a large player in the e-invoicing space. The question is, what in particular are you doing with Basware that you can talk about?
We are addressing their business automation business unit that is basically a hub between sender and the recipient. And we do the mediation, the rating, the billing, Not necessarily talking about specifically Busware, but we don't necessarily have to replace the SAP as an invoicing engine, but we're the rating engine. We do product management, and that's sort of a area for Busware.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. And obviously, one thing that e-invoicing organizations need to grapple with is scalability. How does your platform, how many transactions can your platform actually handle in 1 month, and how scalable is it for the future?
Well, we are in the business of handling huge numbers of small transactions. One of our customers has close to 2 million subscribers that generate 450 million transactions a month, and we do that, the rating of loss, and then send invoices on the second or third day of the following month. So scalability is really a non-issue that we're very comfortable with. Extremely high volume of transactions.
Okay, and final question that I think we have time for is about you doing an assessment. So when an organization like Busware comes on board, how do you go about scoping out the work, and give us a feel as to what that looks like when you come in and work with an organization like Busware to scope out exactly what project work needs to be done there?
Yeah. That comes to the core of our motto, which is delivering your vision. So we are here to help you to be successful in your business vision. So in our approach, we have a workshop, a 1-day or 2-day workshop, where we review your business processes from product management to orders to sales to finance to production, and have maybe a 1 or 2 hour meeting with each subject area expert in your organization who will describe, this is how we operate, and these are our pain points. We analyze that information. We add our 15 years of experience in similar situations, and then we produce you a proposal. This is how we see that these pain points you have identified could be addressed, and this is how we could together deliver your vision. And all up to this is basically free of charge that we do this workshop. And after that, you say, hey, it's good, let's start working together. That's when we also start invoicing. So we want to know deeply what are the issues that we can help you with.
Okay, good. Thank you very much indeed, Ilkka, for a very thorough overview as to how you can indeed help e-invoicing providers be super successful. And ladies and gentlemen, those of you that don't know, we have e-invoicing Europe taking place next week. If you haven't subscribed to that, it is very nearly sold out. We do have 1 or 2 tickets left if you would like to join us there. And we have a continuation of our webinar series coming up in July, so please do make time to join us there. And thank you very much for your time and attention. Thank you to Ilkka. I look forward to welcoming you next time, and goodbye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.